you're a fan of the X-Men, this video is going to make you very, very happy. Kevin Feige himself is out there making comments about the future of the X-Men and the mutants, not only in the next couple of years, but in the saga after Secret Wars. His comments are crazy and quite interesting, but they get even more interesting when you combine them with other leaks and rumors that are out there. Kevin is vaguely explaining what is going on, and it confirms a ton of stuff we've been talking about behind the scenes. Let's get into it. Let's begin with the comments made by Kevin Feige. We'll go through a couple of them, but it's really the first comment that's so interesting. So on bringing the X-Men into the MCU, Feige said, I think you will see that continues in our next few movies with some X-Men players that you might recognize. Right after that, the whole story of Secret Wars really leads us into a new age of mutants and of X-Men. Again, it's one of those dreams come true. We finally have the X-Men back. Okay, so first off, let's focus on the comments that Kevin said. What is he actually saying there? First, he says, I think you will see that continuation in our next few movies with some X-Men players that you might recognize. And so what he's saying there is you might see familiar X-Men faces in the next few Marvel movies. I think he's talking about Captain America, Brave New World. I think he is talking about Thunderbolts. And I think he is definitely talking about the Fantastic Four. And we know that you might get some setup for adamantium and some things in Captain America, Brave New World. Thunderbolts is kind of a question mark for me. I'm not really sure what aspect of the mutants will be explored in that film. And then when it comes to the Fantastic Four, it's all about this separate universe. Perhaps you will have some X-Men in that universe, or more likely it'll be dealing with the knowledge of the multiverse and mutants and X-Men out there within the multiverse itself. And perhaps this will focus on the character of Franklin Richards, as in the comics, he was originally a mutant and an Omega level mutant, super powerful mutant, that was, of course, the child of Sue Storm and Reed Richards. But it's this next part that's really freaking crazy. So he says, right after that, the whole story of Secret Wars really leads us into a new age of mutants and of the X-Men. Now, that is insanity. Number one, it confirms this whole idea of the Mutant Saga. This is a long-standing rumor out there within the community that the next saga after the Multiverse Saga is going to be a Mutant Saga. It's going to entirely focus on X-Men and mutants and potentially even take that into a cosmic place. And so what Kevin is saying with this comment is that you're going to see a continuation of them introducing X-Men and perhaps having familiar X-Men and mutant people in the next few films that will then lead into Secret Wars and the story they're telling within their sort of ending of Secret Wars, which I think includes Doomsday, it includes Spider-Man 4, and then it includes Secret Wars, the actual film. And then that whole story, which is being told at the end of the multiverse, is going to directly lead into a new age for the mutants, a new age for the X-Men. But the obvious question is, like, how does that set that up? How can you have the story of Secret Wars, which is really an Avengers story, and it seems to be really focused on Doctor Doom? How can that story then set up a new age for the mutants and the X-Men? And there's really only two explanations. One of them is very simple. One of them is a little bit more complicated. Now, the simple answer here is just the fact that they are going to soft reboot the entire MCU, and you are probably going to get a universe where you have the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the Avengers all in one universe. This is a long-standing rumor. This rumor goes all the way back to some of the first reports we heard about Secret Wars back when it was supposed to be Kang still. There were reports from friend of the channel, Paul from Heavy Spoilers. He was talking about how they wanted to bring all of those characters in one cohesive universe. There were even talks way back in the day about bringing in Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, into the new version of the MCU. Don't know if that's still on the table, but the point is, yeah, you're going to get a new age of the mutants because they're going to be in continuity. They're all just going to be in the universe. But the other explanation for this is even crazier. It's a bit complicated, but I think this is actually the route that Marvel is setting up. I think what Marvel wants to set up is the mutants themselves as this very important part of what is cosmically happening within a particular universe within Marvel, but also within the cycle of universes within Marvel. Think about it like this. Right now we know there are other X-Men and mutants out there within the multiverse. We've seen them in 838. We have seen them in X-Men 97. We have also seen them at the end of the Marvels in that post-credit scene. There's a universe there with the X-Men. On top of that, we know a lot of them exist via Deadpool and Wolverine. There are multiple universes with Wolverine. They see a bunch of them in that film. Wolverine himself is from a universe where the X-Men and the Avengers seemingly coexist. And so there are a lot of X-Men out there within the multiverse, but there are not a lot of X-Men in the sacred timeline. And I think the entire story of Secret Wars is going to see characters undoing the sacred timeline and sort of resetting it back to its actual form. This ties into a lot of theories I have about RDJ as Doctor Doom, the fact that he was actually a Doctor Doom variant when he was Iron Man throughout the Infinity Saga, which of course would be a crazy retcon. But there's also all this stuff with the Scarlet Witch and this proposal that the Scarlet Witch will be working with Doctor Doom to possibly create a new version of the sacred timeline, which really strikes me as very similar to House of M. I know it's very similar to the Children's Crusade, and I think they're obviously pulling from that, but I also think they are pulling from House of M, where Wanda recreates all of reality, and she actually tried to give everybody exactly what they wanted in their reality, and then that reality has to go away. Like, basically, there were a group of people that said this is completely false reality, so it had to be undone, and that actually, like, ripped the heart away from a lot of different characters. Like, Spider-Man particularly had this incredible life during House of M. He had Gwen, he had kids, and he was super salty that they were going to actually take all of that stuff away. And so I think if we think about what they're probably doing with Wanda and setting her up as this big player in the new universe, which is going to be undone, and then there's going to be a new universe as the soft rebooted MCU after Secret Wars, I believe they could be setting up Wanda to do a No More Mutants on a multiversal scale, and perhaps we'll be setting that up, and mutants themselves will be reeling from that after Secret Wars. It's also possible that the mutants were kept out of the sacred timeline for a specific reason, and it's possible the mutants are something like a cosmic force within the fabric of the multiverse. I know it's getting like really super nerdy and crazy here, but what I'm saying is there are a lot of stories in Marvel Comics that assert the fact that the mutants are like this really freaking important part of the overall being of a universe. Just like the Deviants, just like the Eternals, just like the Celestials, the mutant gene and what mutants would eventually evolve into becoming is actually part of the universal plan. It's a part of the fabric. So I'm kind of seeing a scenario in which the story of Secret Wars puts the mutants in a really interesting place within the lore of the MCU and maybe all of the previous versions of the multiverse that existed within the MCU canon, which would then allow for the mutants themselves in the soft rebooted MCU to be really important, to be significant enough that they would warrant the attention of the Celestials, the Eternals, and perhaps even other cosmic forces. Remember, the Phoenix Force itself is an absolutely epic part of the pantheon of Marvel gods and of Marvel celestial beings, and the Phoenix Force has obviously a favor with mutants. She has inhabited Jean Grey and other mutants, and I know this is a way more complicated version than just the soft reboot. Of course, the soft reboot is going to establish an MCU with a ton of mutants and X-Men, at least more so than there were before. But I also think the story itself that they are cooking up with these movies, with Doomsday and with Secret Wars particularly, and its connection to Wanda could really be like Children's Crusade meets House of M meets Judgment Day, as we sort of realize what the mutants actually are and how dangerous they are. And I also personally think this is freaking epic as hell, dude. The X-Men are awesome. We're all so excited that the X-Men are finally in there. I mean, we loved X-Men 97. We loved Deadpool and Wolverine. So more mutants coming in to this whole multiversal thing. I think it's going to be incredible. There's, of course, the universe with Carol, or with Monica and her mom. And, you know, that's probably going to come into conflict with the 616. You got little Avengers versus X-Men thing. And I think it's just freaking epic that they're going to properly set up the mutants and then focus on the mutants for the saga after the multiversal saga. So I think it's dope. Let me know what you think about these updates and these different ways that they fit into the leaks and rumors that we've heard about. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.